take out the strings. Hi. So, I have notes, which means that I am serious. Let's start off with a couple of questions, which is number one, what is art to you? You want to define the answer to that question when you're going into anything in art, whether you're just doing it as a hobby, or if you're wanting to do it in the long term. But you also have to define whether or not it is a hobby for you, or if you want to go further into it as like a job or something else like that. But defining what art is to you. The next question is going to be, what do you want it to be? So if it's a hobby for you right now, do you want it to stay a hobby, or do you want to move on to something that's a little bit more concrete in terms of like, oh, I actually want to do this like for a job or more consistently? The second category are some practical steps that you can take to getting better at your artwork. Now, the first thing that you should do is plan on how you want to reach your goals. My goals when I was first starting out were to get better at faces. So I would draw a lot of faces, which you just draw a whole lot of what it is that you want to get better at. Also surrounding yourself with the things that you want to achieve. And what I mean by that is if you're planning on getting better at portraiture, then surrounding yourself on your feed on Instagram or whatever it is that you use the most with portraits. That way you're getting a consistent idea of what it is to look at things that actually are what you're wanting to achieve, and then also looking at different styles that you want to kind of mimic and adapt into your own style, because that's how I found my own, by looking at other people's. It was messing around with techniques that I saw them use, as well as their brushes, their colors, their shading, their shadows. So those things I picked up and intertwined with my own work, and then eventually I was able to form what I have now in these pieces here. Making your own style is never going to be your own style. It's always going to have influences from other people. But if you wanted to have something more concrete, then, having those influences will definitely help you in the long run. If you want to get better at eyes, start drawing eyes. Draw them in your doodles when you're doing your homework or something. If you're trying to draw more faces, then do simple faces. Don't make it super complicated. Just keep on going from there. Those are my suggestions for practical steps. Techniques that you can start using are the shapes method, which is what I use to teach my students. I picked this up from Ethan Becker, who I'll put right there. He's been a great help, actually. I think earlier when quarantine first started, the first video that I watched of his was how to draw in the Avatar style in 3 steps. Link that in the description too. But what he did was he would break down the shapes of each of the different frames that were inside of an Avatar episode, and then he would look at the lines that he'd sketched over on top of the reference and draw those things, and then try and alter his own sketch in such a way that it looks exactly like what the Avatar frame actually looked like. And one thing that I love that he said in the video was that he doesn't consider himself to be a good drawer, which we don't carry clothes, that he considers himself to be a good editor, which I think is honestly the best thing that you could name yourself as an artist is an editor, because even though you're sketching or you're drawing something, you're really just editing what you view as reality. Food for thought, perhaps. That's the shapes method, and I can put some examples of what I teach my students over here. And second technique that you can use is Croku, which I am 100% sure that I am saying that incorrectly. Essentially, it's where you're drawing one image for a set amount of time. It ranges from 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and it can go extended on for however long, depending on how intricate you want it to go. It helps you get faster at sketching, which I think is a lot different than actually drawing something. It's just getting the initial concept in your mind onto paper is what I consider it to be. When you get better at sketching, the faster that you can get at actually coloring and doing your line art and whatever else that you want to do to finish up your work. I know that a lot of people are like, well, you don't have to get faster at drawing to be better, which is true, but I think that doing this type of technique will also help you to get better at noticing what it is that you struggle with, because yes, I mean, it'll take you time to get used to drawing in such a short amount of time. And third, I would recommend drawing with other people. If you have friends that you know who are artists, then I would recommend that you draw with them at some point in time. Maybe do a Croku session with each other, because art is much easier if you do it with other people in terms of having motivation, which funnels into our next topic, which is motivation. I personally do not have much motivation for things that I'm not particularly interested in. I don't like, doing weights or running or walking. And if I do, then my legs start itching, which is also due to me being inactive. What can you do? I do know that it'll be slightly easier for me to get motivation to do things that I haven't done more frequently if they're attributed to something that I do enjoy. Within making video games, you also have 3D modeling and 3D animation, which is part of, making the characters move and designing what they look like. But I don't have much motivation for actually making the 3D models. But I have more motivation than I had for exercising to do that, because it's attributed to something that I enjoy, and I can also foresee myself using that skill. I think that you should start thinking about whether or not you want to make art second nature, and it doesn't have to be drawing that becomes second nature to you. It could be a different funnel of artwork. It could be painting, it could be writing, it could be dancing, it could be clay. It could be literally anything. If you single yourself out only to one section to funnel your creativity into, then you'll probably run into more ruts than you think. I think that I've covered all my topics. Wow, like 13 minutes. Pretty good timing.